Hello, everyone. Today I'm going to be talking about effective digital marketing strategies and talking about winning visibility in the age of AI. I know I've talked to quite a few people here in the in-person event, and it's like some of you love AI and some of you don't love AI. So this will be interesting to go through. Okay, so I'll share a little bit about myself. I'm going to share a travel statistic, so why you should pay attention to everything else I'm going to be talking about, how to get visibility for your property. Then we'll go through reporting to see if what you're doing is working, and then just kind of share if you want help with your marketing, how we can assist. So first, a little bit about myself. I'm the digital marketing manager here at rezStream, and I've been here for almost 4 years. I'm a Colorado native. I enjoy watching Denver sports teams. You can always find me going on a hike with my dog on the weekends. I love to get away, especially camping, and my dog always comes with me. And my favorite cuisine is Mexican food. So here's my stat as to why you should listen to everything else that I'm going to say. About 83% of travelers have used or are interested in using AI tools for travel planning, and about 67% of people trust AI to give good travel ideas. Younger travelers, especially Gen Z, are essentially expecting you to show up in AI. So if you're not, you're missing out on the younger generations. Older generations still prefer traditional methods, but you're in luck. The way to show up in AI is also great ways to show up in search engines. So you should just be implementing all these best practices so you can show up on AI and search engines. Okay, my disclaimer is AI is always changing. Like somebody said, it's changing every single day, every single week. So what works right now might not work forever. So just keep that in mind. Maybe something that you were told a couple weeks ago might not be relevant, and we could learn something major tomorrow. The major resources that people are using for travel planning are, of course, ChatGPT, Google Gemini, Claude, and then AI overviews in Google, Bing, Yahoo, and Microsoft. There are a couple like travel specific AI platforms that are starting to come out. But even with those coming out, these are the main ways people are searching for travel. So these are kind of the platforms I'm speaking to because they've been around a lot longer. All those resources I just mentioned pull their data slightly differently, but what they all do is rely on public web data. So it's important that you have a good website so that AI can pull from your website. So with all that I've said, what does this mean for your lodging property? My biggest suggestion is have a human first approach followed by tried and true search engine optimization. So maybe you thought I was going to give you tips on how to only show up in AI, but like I said, if you're doing it for the search engines, you'll also show up in AI. So why would you want to make content for humans? There are over 16 billion Google searches every single day. Google's been around for quite some time, and they have come out to say that their automated ranking systems are designed to prioritize helpful and reliable content that is created to benefit people and not created that is manipulating search engines. So I know that this quote from Google is not specific to AI, but like I said, Google's been around a while. They have so many searches that we should trust what they're saying because this also goes into Google Gemini and their AI overviews. So if you're trying to trick the system, you could actually be hurting yourself. So please do not try to trick the system. It's also equally important to make content by humans for the humans. AI written content is not as naturally written as human content. It's not filled with M dashes and emojis. And I'm not saying you can't utilize AI to assist with writing content on your website. I would say, write from your heart and then ask AI to clean it up. But if you're relying 100% on AI to write your content, that's also not going to help you show up in AI. It's kind of funny how it is, right? You can't use AI to show up in AI that much. Another reason is human written content has stronger trust, and search engines and AI platforms really prioritize content with what we call as double EAT. So it stands for experience, expertise, authoritativeness, and trustworthiness. So anytime you can prove that you have experience in something, you're an expert on something, you have authority to talk about it, and you have a trustworthy point of view, search engines and AI platforms eat that up because AI can't have a first person experience the same way you do. So I don't have any slides on this, but if you could have like an about our staff page or about the owner page or the history of the property, that will help you show up way higher in search engines and platforms because you're hitting all these points of the double EAT that, ChatGPT could never experience, right? So the first best practice that I would want to share with you is AI platforms usually just scan the first sentence of each paragraph. You know, certain times they are doing full crawls, but AI has so much information to gather, they can't be crawling every single word on every single website on the internet. That's just way too much content. Recommendation is to keep paragraphs small, like this screenshot, and then use linking internally and externally within that first sentence to build authority. And AI will see that you are more preferred because you're linking within your website to provide more information and linking externally. Of course, important content should be at the top of the paragraph, shouldn't be buried because AI might completely miss that content. And then, kind of like Kristen was saying, you can kind of like plug in. Again, don't try to trick the system. But if you are like in a Q&A, what time is checkout? Rather than just stating checkout is 1 to 2, you can have that as a question. Because if AI can crawl the exact question that someone searches, your content's more likely to appear. Now, again, you don't need to like trick it and say like, what time is checkout at Murphy's Resort? And have at Murphy's Resort at the end of every question. It's smart enough to know I'm going to go to this website if like 90% of the question is the same. So I wanted to share examples of different approaches. And personally, I feel like it's just personal preference and there's pros and cons to each one of these approaches. So here's one approach for an FAQ page. And this is what we call an accordion style. So we can't see any of the content. All the content is hidden, but it's really easy for a human, for their eyes to go really quickly. Can you swim in the lake? That's all I want to know. I can click that plus sign and I can figure it out. Unfortunately, if there's ever a human element involved, AI cannot conduct that human element. So anything that's hidden here can't be found. So that might be a red flag to you, but honestly, I wouldn't find that too concerning because, for example, the first question, how many people sleep in each cottage? That information should be on each one of your accommodation pages anyway. So AI can find it anyway. Not every single page needs to be made for AI. Like I said, some pages should just be made for humans. And I think that an accordion style FAQ page is perfect to have. You shouldn't swear it off, but just make sure the information's elsewhere throughout your website. Here's another approach some people like to take is there's all the content, you can see it, but there's also a lot of content. Personally, my eyes only go to the bold section that says nobody under the age of 18 is allowed in the hot tub. I really don't read anything else that's on that page. Like I said, AI is only calling that first sentence. So just make sure that it's visible. But some people like to have every single detail. So no guests have any questions. And then another approach, which I feel like somewhere in the middle, is a bolted list. So all that content is there for AI to see. AI will crawl each one of those bullet points. It sees it as a new paragraph, but it's really easy for me to decipher what all this is saying without a massive paragraph. So like I said, it's personal preference. Okay. So these are the major takeaways that I've already talked about for contents for humans by humans. So if you want to take a picture, you can, kind of like a checklist. Make sure you have high quality content on the website written by humans. Don't include excessive em dashes and emojis. Don't try to trick the system with content for AI. Write content that's easily digestible. If a human can read it, AI can also read it. Utilize that when possible. Include questions. Add the most important info at the top of the paragraph, and then use internal linking and external linking. Okay, so the next section I'll be talking about is search engine optimization and how that can help you appear in AI. So what is SEO? I feel like if I had to describe SEO in one sentence, it would be improving your brand awareness through optimizing content, adding keywords, ensuring there's high quality technical performance, managing your online listing. So overall, you can show up higher in search results, which is what we all want, because if people can't find you, they can't book with you. SEO is so important for AI visibility because SEO has been around for 25 years. Some people even claim it's been around for 30 years, right? So there's proven tactics that work. Whereas in the grand scheme of things, AI is really new. We're still learning what works and AI is always changing. So if you stick with something that's tried and true and proven, it's going to help your visibility on AI and on search engines. Let's see kind of what I just said. AI pulls high quality information. Let's keep plugging along. A new term that's going around is GEO. Not sure if any of you guys have ever heard of that, but it stands for Generative Engine Optimization. And GEO truly is just a form of SEO, which is just focusing your brand to get your brand or website to show up on AI generated answers. So The example I gave was like accordion versus bullets. Maybe a GEO best practice would be those bullet points, whereas maybe an SEO best practice is the accordion. You can kind of pick and choose what you feel like works best for your website. So I'll be sharing search engine optimization best practices. I guess all of these could be considered GEO because these are just specific ones I'm pointing out that I know can help you increase your visibility on AI platforms. Okay. First one is optimizing your Google business listing profile, your TripAdvisor listing, and all of your OTA listings. So if I wanted to take this as a checklist and I was going to go through my Google business profile, my TripAdvisor listing, my OTAs, I'd make sure I'd answer every single one of the prompts. I wouldn't leave anything blank. For a while, the best practice in Google was not to answer the questions if it didn't apply to you. Now Google has come out and said, mark it as no if you don't offer it, because then Google has a definitive answer to go into AI and say, no, they do not have a restaurant on site. Whereas if you leave it blank, Google might not know if you have a restaurant on site, right? Next is responding to reviews, which I'll be talking more about reviews on another slide. Upload high quality imagery, which I'll be talking about more about imagery. And then just ensure that the content is consistent across all platforms. AI can get really confused if you have some content on this platform and some content on that listing, and they're not sure what is credible. So make sure everything's pretty consistent. So then AI has two sources that can trust, compare, and then feed that out to people that are searching for traveling. I just wanted to share that rezStream does partner with a local listing management company. This is a tool that ensures that all your content is consistent across all platforms. So if you don't want to be the one that goes out and edits all that, that is an option that we can offer to you. Another thing that I would recommend doing on your Google business listing is taking advantage of Google Posts. So Google came out and said that AI in their AI overviews and in Google Gemini can pull content from these Google Posts. And this is a great way to add relevant updates. I know at least for our social media clients, we always are posting that content on Google as well, just so that way Google has more content to crawl, images, if there's any specials, any events coming up. Just give it another place to look. Like I said, I was going to come back to reviews. 65% of travelers are not going to book without reading reviews. So I feel like we talked quite a bit about reviews today here, at least in the in-person group, but I would say always ask your guests for reviews and then respond to all reviews in a timely manner. Our best practice is if it's a positive review, you have about 7 days to respond. If it's a negative review, you should be responding within 24 hours. AI can pull information from reviews, so be sure to highlight key features or even ask your guests to highlight what their favorite features were. But again, don't try to trick the system by keyword stuffing. You don't want to like write a long review like every amenity, like, oh, it was pet friendly and there was a hot tub and there was a pool, right? We don't want to trick the system, but if truly people enjoy that you're a pet friendly property with a swimming pool, they're probably going to include that in the review, and AI can pull and say, oh, look, your property is pet friendly and has a swimming pool. Next is images. Like I said, include high quality images on your listings, but also on your website because AI can scan images and then provide answers to searches. So if somebody was like, are there bedside tables? Which I don't know if anyone would search that. AI can crawl the image and see that there is a bedside table next to the bed, because that's probably not something that you would type on in your website. That's kind of a random example. But so just make sure that you have high quality photos that AI can crawl and that the photos are accurate. If you've renovated, please get new photos. Otherwise, people are going to get confused again. That's like human first content, but AI can also get confused.
Sorry. So what was the benefit when you're talking about AI search responding to reviews?
Sure. So the question was, what is the benefit of responding to reviews for AI? And well, there's a couple things. One, it's just best practice to respond to people's reviews. 65% of travelers aren't booking without reading reviews, but AI can crawl that content. So if you're responding and saying, thank you so much, I'm so glad you brought your dog, right? Even if the review wasn't about dogs, AI can learn you're a pet friendly property and then in turn use that information. Does that answer your question? Okay. Of course. Okay, next would be implementing hotel schema. So no matter what kind of property you have, if you consider yourself a resort or an inn or a bed and breakfast, Google pretty much just calls it hotel schema. And then you can specify what kind of property type you have within that. But keeping your schema up to date ensures details like your amenities and your unit options are very clear and accurate because you're feeding that information to the back end. So search engines and AI platforms can see that visibility. And then I did just want to call out if you're a marketing client and you have SEO as part of your marketing bundle, your schema is up to date with the most best practices for that schema. So you don't need to worry about that. Next would be technical SEO for AI. And I sometimes think that these are like the main things people think of when they think of SEO, but don't know what it truly means. But if I were to have a property that I wanted to implement technical SEO on, I'd be putting alt tags on the back end of my images because again, AI can crawl that the image and the alt tags. I'd make sure that there's relevant keywords on the back end and within the content. So there's certain ways that you can look up relevant keywords that people are searching. But again, I would not keyword stuff because that can harm you. I would optimize title tags and then also optimize meta descriptions and make sure those best practices are in place as well. Another thing would be blogging, and this kind of goes back to that human content made by humans for humans, but kind of in a more like realistic explanation outside of just your regular pages is I would really recommend adding blogs. This is a great way to have high quality content and also relevant content. Search engines and AI platforms love active websites. If you haven't updated your website in a couple of months, Google and AI platforms can think sometimes that the information you're putting out is no longer relevant, which is a bummer because it could be relevant, right? So, one way to teach search engines and AI platforms that you are still alive and you still want people finding your website and you want them to crawl your website is to add consistent new content. I would say don't just be updating your accommodation pages all day, every day, because then the crawlers can't learn that most important information, which is why blogs are a really great thing to implement because you're leaving your core pages as is but just adding new content. So that could be about events in the area, activities in the area, why people love to visit your area, anything like that. Not really like self promotion usually, which is also kind of nice because then people might be able to find you on AI or on search engines when they're not necessarily looking for a place to stay. Maybe they just want to know where the best leaf peeping is in Estes Park. And then AI cites you, they end up on your website and they're like, well, actually, I do want to spend the night in Estes Park. And then they end up booking at your property. So these are my major takeaways of what I've talked about so far about SEO and GEO for AI. So again, kind of like a checklist, if you want to take a picture, I would overall optimize my Google business profile, my TripAdvisor profile, and then my OTA listings. I would utilize those Google posts on Google business profile, include pictures, any relevant updates. I would request my past guests to leave reviews, and then I would also respond to reviews. And you can do that on Google, TripAdvisor, one or the other, or both. I would utilize high quality imagery on my website. I would implement hotel schema. I would implement technical SEO on the back end, and then I would also write blogs. Another quick tip that I want to bring awareness to is brand awareness. And that would be social media. So I don't feel like this necessarily falls under content on the website or even under SEO. It's overall just brand awareness. But the main goal for social media usually is brand awareness. Social media is great, but I would say like one of the cons about social media is they want their users to stay on the site. They don't want them to leave because then you're not going to look at their ads, right? But I would say anyway, this brings brand awareness. AI can also crawl information from your social media. It increases your likelihood of mentions and citations, which I'll be talking a little bit more about what mentions and citations are. But another way for AI to know what recent content is and what relevant content is. Okay, now we'll be talking about reporting. So, this is an example of one of our marketing clients, and we've created a funnel within GA4 to only show me what traffic is coming through from ChatGPT. Now, you can update funnels and such within Google Analytics if you wanted to see your certain traffic coming from Gemini and your certain traffic coming from ChatGPT and your certain traffic coming from XYZ. You can fill in the blank for whatever AI platform. It's not going to show up if you've never gotten traffic, but as long as you've gotten at least one session within a time frame that you're searching for, you can add it as a filter. So for this specific client, in this short period of time, they saw 248 people click to their website. from ChatGPT. And then that resulted in $1,185.95 in revenue. And you can see which page resulted in revenue, which is also super cool. So, like a certain suite brought in money, that sort of thing, the homepage. So, there you go. Speaking of reporting, I will say that since AI came out, there are a couple changes. Prior to AI, we used to see a lot higher clicks onto web pages. So now it's not uncommon to see a decrease in clicks, or as GA4 calls it, sessions, because people are finding their information via AI. So maybe in the past, I would have had to click through actual blog posts to find the best place to go leaf peeping in Estes Park. Now I can just search in AI, what's the best place to leave peep in Estes Park? And it's going to give me all the answers. And I never clicked on anybody's website, right? So I would say it's okay if your sessions are down, but that's only also okay if your engagement rates are high. So thankfully, Google lets you know how engaged somebody is on a session. And as long as that number's staying strong, that's good because these are high quality visitors. If you have a dip in traffic and people are not engaged, that could be a red flag that something needs to be changed on your website. Google Search Console shares the option to see impressions for search queries, which is super nice. And we've seen an increase in impressions because, again, people are finding that information through maybe an AI overview, and we saw the impression that they saw, but then they didn't have to click through maybe to a link because they got the information that they needed. Like I said, I wanted to share the difference between mentions and citations. So a mention would be like hotels in Denver, Colorado include Holly's Hideaway and Hebrink Resort, right? So they weren't actually linking to the website. They were just stating a fact. This is great for brand visibility, but it's harder to track because it wasn't necessarily linking out to you. But maybe that would encourage somebody to look up Holly's Hideaway on Google, right? And then a citation would be something like, according to Holly's Hideaway website, checkout times at 11 a.m. So there's actually like somebody can click through, end up on your policy page. And then that's where we'd be able to find that traffic through Google Analytics. This is great for authority, influence, and like I said, easier to track. But both of these are equally important to be integrated within AI platforms. You don't want to just have one or the other. So just a little bit of both is great. Okay, like I said, I was going to share some marketing services that we offer for AI. A lot of our marketing is kind of a la carte. You can just kind of build whatever package you feel like is best for you. So we offer SEO/GEO. So of course, we'll implement best practices for content on your website. We're also doing backend technical best practices. So making sure those keywords are good, your schema is up to date, you have alt tags, title tags, meta description, all that technical stuff that none of you want to worry about, right? Because you're just busy being a hotelier, right? And then we also optimize your listings like your Google Business Profile and TripAdvisor. We also offer blogging services, which is great. So that way we can keep your site lively. Social media for that brand awareness to show an AI, but that also includes Google Posts, which is nice. And then I already kind of talked a little bit about local listing management. And that's all I had.
We can talk
Can you repeat that one more time?
about some of the services and packages as well.
Well, I would say, like I said about, well, the question was for people that couldn't hear, he was asking if I can talk about the packages and the pricing. And I will say, like I said, a lot of our marketing is kind of a la carte. You can kind of pick and choose what's worked best. So Jeff and our sales team would love to talk to you so he can kind of tell you what those options are. Or I can show you too.
General practice, $400 per employee. You are actually,
Yes.
if you're putting a blog on your website, then, and you said AI can't click on things, so you need to put the whole blog on the website, right? Not click here to see our blog.
Gotcha. Okay. So there's something. Okay. Wait. So for everybody that didn't hear, he was asking kind of about like the human element of can people click link or can AI click links on blogs? There's a difference between the human element of the plus button on the accordion because the only point of that button would be to expand content. But AI can see when you link out what that URL is, and then it'll crawl that extra URL separately. So it's a little bit different, which is why internal linking is important and external linking.
You don't need to do it special.
Yeah.
It's a different blog. So that's in that blog. So we got then what's wrong? If the content isn't actually there, when you click it, you can have it in the duck section.
Oh,
Subsection of the blog.
oh, of course.
You used to seeing that kind of blogging website so big, like now saying that it's beneficial.
Yep, I would definitely add blogs if I had a property. Somebody asked in the group if I can show an example of a social media post. So this is the screenshot that I have. I don't know if I can go on Google, but here's an example. So with our social media, we use a social media scheduling platform. So it's super easy for us to do. We don't have to manually go in. If you were managing your own social media without a platform, you'd probably have to go in, but you can just update with a picture and then a text. You can include links in there, but unfortunately, Google doesn't allow you to do specific tracking unless you build out specific UTM tracking parameters for every single link. Does that answer your
Got
question?
it. So just to reiterate that, your scheduling tool is how the social media posts also get posted.
Yeah, but you could manually post it there if you want as well. Yep. And so you would go to your Google business profile, scroll down. It's at the very bottom of your Google business profile. It's called Google Posts. There should be a plus button and it can prompt you to upload a photo, type a little caption, that sort of thing. Let's see. There might be some questions in the chat, maybe. No, there's no questions in the chat. Okay. Well, that's all. If anybody has any other questions, just let me know. Thank you.